market, Pensacola. Boy, last week we had some scares, didn't we? Of course, I'm not trying to talk about Halloween. I wouldn't be that cheesy. Maybe. I was talking about how the weather went from 80 and raining to 30 like that. I mean, Halloween night ended very, very quickly just because it was too cold. I think the kids were done by 7:30. They're like, I'm out. See you later. And then on top of that, the Fed. What was going on there? That was unexpected. We're not going to talk about Halloween or the weather, but we probably will talk about the Fed here in just a second. Let's go. I'm a man on a mission. My mission is to help people break through all the noise out there and don't need no permission. I want to help you get to actual truth. Don't you just want the truth? All right, for some listeners that don't know any idea what I'm talking about when I said the Fed cuts rate last week, they had their next to last meeting. And with an economic recession looming, probably next year, I said that in 2018. So last year, if you go back and listen to one of my podcast episodes, I talked about recession 2020. The economic indicators just point that way. Now, before anybody goes jumping off a bridge thinking that housing is going to go bananas, it's not. Okay, if you look at the last 5 recessions we've had, 3 of them housing went up. 1 of them housing went down less than 1%. It was just the last one that housing led where we saw a big drop. So I've had some buyers telling me, hey, we're going to wait because this recession is going to bring prices back. There is nothing that indicates that. Nothing at all. All right, but it was a surprise outside of the housing market. So I know this is a housing and real estate episode, but I want to bring you outside for just a second and go. I was expecting the Fed to keep that arrow in their quiver till probably the 4th or final meeting in December, but they indicated they may cut again. So there is some stuff that's going on behind the scenes, I'm sure, and I'm sure with this starting to kick off political season for the election next year, that has something to do with it as well. So it was just a surprise, but a pleasant one because we saw adjustments in rates. It doesn't necessarily mean your mortgage rate's going to go down, but I'm seeing some go down. So anyways, let's get started on this. If you have not watched this show at all, I always use this as a baseline so that we can talk about what's going on in Escambia and Santa Rosa County. If you have between 6 and 7 months worth of inventory, you have what's called a neutral market. Greater than 7 months is considered a buyer's market. Less than 6 months is considered a seller's market. What it doesn't say, and I always try and say this every week too, greater than 9 months is considered a hyper buyer's market. Less than 3 months is considered a hyper seller's market. So let's see where we are. Santa Rosa County. Again, the same thing. This is actually, I've started to coin this as the Santa Rosa housing crisis right now. I know it's the holidays. I know that some of this is seasonal, but I haven't seen inventory this low in a long time. All right, so it's an inventory crisis in Santa Rosa County. If this is your first time watching the show, this is the list price, and over here on the right is the month's worth of inventory. That's why I show that first slide. Okay, so if there's anything under 3 months is considered a hyper seller's market. Look at this, between 100 and 150, there's literally 24 properties. 24 properties. What does this mean? This means that we have 0.9, this is the 0.9. We have under 1 month's inventory. If I don't get more inventory in Santa Rosa County at that price point, we will be out of houses to look at by Thanksgiving. Done. There will be nothing for them to buy. And it's not much better when you get the 150 to 200. There's only 77, but with 72 under contract, we're at 1.1 months worth of inventory. The appetite between 100 and 200, those entry-level homes, is incredible in Santa Rosa County. And it's Escambia County is no different. We'll see that here in just a second. But to see this inventory crisis go all the way up to 500,000 scares me a little. It just does. You go 500,000 to 550, it's still a seller's market, but we're creeping up on a neutral. Okay. And then if you go 650 and up, they would call that a buyer's, although it's in yellow. But you would venture to say that net, all the way up to about 650 is going to be a neutral. 500 to 650 is going to be right at a neutral. And then 650 and up starts to become a buyer's, but not a hyper buyer's. So we do not have a hyper buyer's market in Santa Rosa County at all. And again, there is an inventory crisis in Santa Rosa County. There just is. And there's only one way to fix that, and that's actually get more inventory on. If you're kicking around the idea of selling and maybe wanting to wait until the first of the year, you may want to talk now. One of the biggest days that people look at real estate is December 27th, believe it or not. And there's a high tick Thanksgiving Day. People watch football, they get together, and then they start scrolling because they're starting to think about next year. So you may not sell the property till next year, but you don't have much competition right now. So if you get it under contract, let's say early next month, to sell middle of January, okay, you're not competing with the people that are going to come on in the spring. And when I say spring, our spring buying season in our area starts January 1. All right, we don't normally deal with snow. If we do, we freak out because we have no idea what that cold stuff is falling from the sky. But we don't normally deal with that. So our inventory always starts January 1. You got income tax returns. People are out buying. But right now, there is a crisis in Santa Rosa County when it comes to inventory. So let's take a look at Escambia County, see where we're at. Looks like the same, about 250. This actually went up a little because it used to be 300, but 250 is a hyper seller's market. The same thing though, 100 to 200, you do have more homes available, but that appetite is right there. That's the entry-level homes. That's where people buying their first home are. There's also an appetite right there for investors. That's one of the other reasons we're seeing it. But this is an inventory crisis when it comes to that, that price point. Looks like from 250 all the way up to 450, still a seller's market. Still a seller's market. 450 to 500, buyer's market. I know it's yellow, but we said if you look at that first slide, anything over 7 months, well, it's 7.6. So buyer's market, 450 to 550, and then hyper buyer 550 to 600 is a hyper buyer's market. 600 to 650 is a seller's market. Creeping down towards a hyper seller's market. Now, Shane, what does all this mean? Hyper buyers, sellers, hyper sellers. What it means that if you're selling, your marketing has to be different. It has to be different if you're at 450 or 430 than if you're at 480. It's just got to be different. You have to differentiate yourself. If you're a buyer, don't come into these price points thinking that you're going to negotiate a lot. Because look, there's not much inventory. This is one of those, hey, you go to the store, this is kind of what they're asking. If you look, things are selling 99, 99, 98% of list price. All right, I had one here this past week. All right, we were at 330 and we got an offer at 300. And we countered showing them, hey, we'll negotiate some, but 10% off at this price point is just not enough. And they said, well, that's too much. Come to find out they can only afford 300. Well, listen, if your pre-approval only says you can go up to 300, don't look at $330,000 properties. You're just going to be disappointed. That's one of the main reasons why I say get the pre-approval first so we know what we're looking at. If your max is 300 and you find something that's listed at 302 or 305, maybe. 330, you're wasting your time. You just are. You're wasting your time and you're going to get heartbroken because you're going to find properties that are a little bit higher than what you can afford and think that you can get them. You just can't. Here's the inventory. Here's why. All right. Every once in a blue moon, something will come along that you can pick up. But that, that particular client was looking at 2014 numbers. We're a long way away from 2014. Anyways, that's what I got for you this week. These are the numbers. Do me a favor. If you haven't subscribed over to the Facebook page, get over there. Facebook.com/Shane Willis, the Realtor. I'm doing a lot. I'm actually, for some of you who don't know, this is your first time seeing this, I've actually rented a client appreciation. I rented a theater for opening night of Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. And I'm going to be running some contests over on Facebook for some people who are not clients to come join us as well. So make sure you get over there. Facebook.com/Shane Willis, the Realtor. All right. I do this every week just as data. If you're looking at selling something or looking at buying something, I hope you reach out to me, but I want to try and give you the data that you know that you can make an informed decision for you and yours. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. My mission is to help people break through all the noise out there and I want to help you get to actual truth. Don't you just want the truth?